population. I'm sure not.
Yeah. Well, that's probably better.
Looks like their thing is they do the like futuristic tiny house.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
cool, little tricks if they get ready now. So I'll come
Yeah.
2 o'clock and I like you guys. Yes, for I guess I work on building a little neighbor that's
Yeah.
I just kept at it.
Travis, we're ready whenever you are. And everybody wish me luck
Personally, the
on my own for the technology. We are live streaming now.
I have total confidence.
Yes, like the last, they say like
Yeah.
minutes or something like that.
I don't know if it was all of that, but
Yeah,
at least 20 in the life.
yeah.
Sam at halftime, when I went to bed, Sam, look, I think there's too much time left in this game for the next one.
Oh, smooth pressure trap. Base. Jim. Give him too much to think about. I'll brush my teeth after.
We don't have anybody joining them.
It doesn't look like it.
No matter today.
No, she is on vacation with her family. Her parents flew in from Poland, so they're down in Florida right now.
Oh, nice.
Right, you weren't here last time.
How's it going?
Have you heard, do we know anything about Chris Bryan or?
No, I haven't heard from them, and Jason has officially resigned from the board.
Yeah, so that'll lead us into our first order of business, but first, I'm gonna open the meeting. The June meeting of SEDCO. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We will get right into the first order of business. So as Karen mentioned, Jason has resigned from the board, and I think I'll leave it to you, Helen,
I was gonna say, and I'm resigning.
Helen
I'm
also
tired.
Helen also has realized that we're getting in the way of all the fun she can be having
Yeah.
in retirement.
Didn't want to say it that way to us, but
So
I found my replacement.
oh yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. So Karen reached out to me and said we have 2 openings. We know we're going to have at least another one in the next year, I believe. So I wanted to talk about sort of institutionalizing a process for finding board replacements. So we're not doing this thing where we're just emailing each other and saying, hey, I know somebody, and people show up, and sometimes it takes a lot of scrambling to get people to join when their first choices aren't on board. And so I've actually been thinking about this for a while, but my thought is that we don't really have any responsibilities for our vice chair, and heading a recruitment committee might be a good responsibility for a vice chair. So we're always looking ahead to vacancies that we know are coming, doing outreach. So we have people who we know might be interested in advance of those vacancies, and then we don't have to go try and chase them down after. And it also will give the board an opportunity to weigh in when we know a vacancy is coming. So it's not just like an email between me and Karen saying, I heard this person might want to do it. Instead, we get more board feedback on who might be good choices. And that way we can be ahead of it. And we can also really farm everybody's relationships and knowledge to fill these vacancies with really powerful board members. So that was my thought. I think regardless, we do have to elect a vice chair. So I'll leave it to the board to make a nomination. I know that I think theoretically Kevin would be up, because it's been the longest since you were chair. I think you were chair before Andrea, is that right?
Yeah.
So I think that Kevin would be aligned for it, but if we want to have an open battle over it, I'm more than happy to let things get ugly.
It's election season, so.
I think, we'll start, do we want to review the duties in case Kevin doesn't want the job first, or?
Well, I think you just reviewed the major part of the.
Might
Yeah,
have
that's what we-
done that after.
Right, yes,
Well,
also cleaning my car. But the only other duty is filling in for me, if I can't be at a meeting for some reason, presumably would be in line to take the chair after I'm done with it. So I will open the table for nominations for vice chair. I don't know what else to do. I'm gonna nominate Kevin for vice chair. And I would love to hear a second on that nomination.
Seconded. Why, no.
I can second.
Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor? Okay, it's official.
I wanted to mention a while ago, the board had created some criteria for members.
Mhm.
We looked at industries, we looked at sort of the requirements, sort of the must-haves, and then the nice ones to have kind of thing. So I think it'd be good for us to go back and look at that just as a guide and maybe update it as part of, since we're doing this kind of more formalized process.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Your first official duty, Kevin, is chair of the recruitment committee.
Oh, can you pull a stop each other?
My parking back in. So we have two vacancies and I know that Karen had a thought about somebody, I know that Helen had a thought about somebody. But Kevin, maybe I'll just sort of ask you to take the ball on it and seek ideas from the committee and then I think anybody who we want to share the application,
Yep.
let her in.
Right.
But we'll talk about a process for vetting and outreach and getting to really good with it.
Yeah, we could do that and Karen, I'll talk to you, but I will not be able to do anything between the 19th and the 3rd of July. I will be in Congressional District 2 during. So,
We won't be meeting, so.
Yeah, I think you're in the clear for a little.
yeah, that's, well, once I get back from camp,
Okay.
we could get together.
And Travis, could I also suggest that we have a number of policies that were written for the board long ago? Maybe Kevin can actually filter through some of those other policies and, bring it back to the board and say, hey, these are the responsibilities of board members and these are the responsibilities of of policy decisions when we take a vote, those types of things, and remind us, and we could do a small session in September on that.
That's what I was gonna ask. We meet next in September, right?
Yes.
So how about we plan to have that on the agenda? A discussion about filling vacancies before we fill vacancies.
Okay.
Great. I will hand over the next item to you, Karen.
Right. So last time we met, we had I provided you a memo about calculations on the benefits of tips through the state formulas. That's generally referred to as the shelter benefit or the shift analysis. And so I wanted to go through a little bit of a presentation and make sure that everybody is up on that, because I think it's one of the more confusing aspects of tips, yet it's one of the aspects that are used to sell tips as well. Like, why do you want to do them and how do they work for the community? So I want to attempt to share. Just a minute here. So as I said, we want to discuss the shift benefit analysis. And what I've done is prepared the analysis for fiscal year 2027. Now, there are some things we don't know about fiscal year 2027. The tax assessor has not done what we call commitment, which is the official statement of, how much value is in the community, how much value is in the different TIF districts and things like that. But one of the things about the way the formulas for the tip sharing or the shift benefit is they use old data. So that's why we were able to calculate the benefit, but we won't be able to compare it to some of the other data until after August. But I'm going to go through what we've done and how much we're saving through shift benefit analysis. It's preliminary, again, until commitment. So we want to talk about how the benefit is created. And I want to step aside and say there's a lot of things that TIFs do. We're only going to go through the shift analysis at this point. And what the state has done, the reason TIFs are important, the reason it's one of the major economic development tools that communities have, is that the state allows you to remove all the value, new value, in your TIF districts. If you're counting it toward the TIF district, you get to remove that from all of the state formulas. So the school funding formula, the municipal revenue sharing, and the county tax all use value as an indicator of the wealth of a community. And so they're assuming that wealthy communities need less assistance. And so the higher your valuation, the lower your funding formula, the lower the value that the funding formulas commit. And then again, the TIP district allows the municipality to defer adding the valuation created for the life of the district.
Just if I could consider another way, just the inverse of that is, it's really a growth tax. There's a disincentive for you to create value because you get less from the state.
Right.
So I would say that shelter benefit is really kind of equalizing or recognizing that, so you're not penalized. I'm not sure that you're terribly rewarded,
Right.
but you're not penalized.
Right.
The CEA, which is a separate part, is really the economic development tool.
Right. So in the reason they do this is many other states allow communities to do other types of investments. They can automatically give a portion of tax rates back. They have all sorts of other tools. And so this is the only tool that allows us to do things for the community and spend money on things like infrastructure and other things. But it's the only tool that allows us to invest back into a business for either infrastructure or other types of expenditures. And so state valuation is the measurement that the state uses to equalize the valuation across all municipalities. And so that's what all of the funding formulas use. They use a certified valuation that the state calculates. And the state valuation automatically excludes value that's created in TIF districts across the state. So when you're using state valuation, the TIF dollars are not included in that. And therefore, when all of the state funding formulas use the state valuation, there's no value associated with the TIF districts. I will say the caveat is you have to include the value that you don't always have to put 100% of the new value into the TIF district, but whatever value you associate with the TIF district, that's what goes into or comes down to state valuation. The other thing that is unique about the state valuation is that it's 2 years behind. So state valuation for 2026 is using the fiscal, the valuation at 4/1/2024. So I just want you to keep thinking about that. Like if you have a new TIF district, like the Downs, where they're not really putting out their full potential yet. And some of their new value really didn't come on the rolls until 23 and 24. All of that value that we're capturing is not really showing up in the shelter benefit yet. And so that's important to recognize. Again, the three pieces that are affected by this valuation: sheltering, state aid for education, revenue sharing. Revenue sharing is what we get back from the state for the municipal share of property, I'm not sales taxes and income taxes. And it's whatever the state decides to share that year. You're not getting all of the taxes back. You're getting whatever percentage that the state decides to share that year.
Karen, what's the state's argument for providing a shelter benefit? Is it that they're promoting planned growth? Why
They're
would they
promoting
reduce-
economic development.
Okay.
They're giving each municipality this tool that says you're going to save some money here. You're also going to be allowed to do a few other things with the funds that you collect, the taxes that you collect for a TIF district. So it's really supposed to be an economic development tool or a housing, affordable housing tool, because you can have either an affordable housing TIF or an economic development TIF.
Can I just take one little side step? Just
Absolutely.
so, for the tax dollars, we issue, the assessor does their thing, they assess value, whether it's TIF district or not, they come up with fair market values, like any other property. We issue tax bills, we collect tax revenue, for tax revenue that is derived from a qualified TIF district. We collect it and then we segregate it, it doesn't come to the general fund, and so my point is, there's a trade-off. There are limitations as to what we can use TIF revenues for. Luckily, those uses have been expanded over the years, but initially it was fairly restrictive. So far, we're starting to produce some serious money in our TIF district. We've been able to use all of it every year on all of my projects.
Right.
Given the performance, expected performance of the downtown TIF, where the Downs is, we're likely to be at a point within the next 5 years, I'll predict, where we have more money than we can spend, right? In which case, we get throttled back. We're capturing 100% now. We can capture a lesser percentage.
Right. And each TIF district can have a different set of percentages too. You don't have to just capture 100% of every TIF. You can decide on a case by case basis, and it can change, as Tom said. Just because you set a percentage this year doesn't mean you have to do that next year.
And give an example of a qualified project that you've been able to use them every year, and that's a qualified project.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of traffic related, so road infrastructure, so that's a big one.
Yeah.
Obviously. Some really kind of unique ones: childcare, economic development. All of SEDCO's cost is being covered by TIF dollars right now.
Okay.
Trails. So it's become quite expansive.
Yeah.
Thank you. But there's still limitations. We have to track it carefully.
Right. And again, the reason SEDCO can be covered is because it's an economic development tool. So any economic development expenses can be covered by the TIF. And again, it's not specifically the focus this time, but it's important to understand what you can and can't do. Like if we do decide, for example, to do a loan fund in the future, that could be funded through TIF dollars.
That's what Gorham is doing, right?
Yes, although I think they had a different source
Structure,
originally for some of that funds, but yes.
Can I
Yes,
just ask, if you scale back the percentage, does that mean that more money can go into the general fund?
It does, but you reduce your the
Right.
tax shift benefit.
right.
Yeah,
It's a trade-off.
So maximize it is to be at 100%.
yeah, got it.
And one big thing that we should mention is, I mean, we're paying debt service for the new public safety building. So that's a service, and that's a investment that we're able to cover with the TIF revenues.
That's a great example because
Mm.
the voters of Scarborough approved the $22 million or whatever it was before the TIF district ever existed. And so the way I like to think of it, we're covering half of the debt service for that building that all of us approved. With $50. So think of it this way, it's all new value, new residents, new business owners are paying half the bill we agreed to pay.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think the community needs to know more about that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you can see, it's tough to
It's a
explain
tough-
this.
Hard to.
yeah.
I've
and-
written state statute on TIFs and I need to explain to me every time it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and to Karen's benefit, I mean, Karen is the only one on certainly on my staff or remotely connected to me that has the ability to do this. And this is something we've talked about forever. And so we're actually able to document, which I think is a huge step forward.
And I will say that yeah, there's some differences between how you look at the shelter benefit that we're going to cover in a second. But again, this is a little bit more of what we've just talked about. The school funding formula, they use 3 years of state valuation. They use an average of 3 years. And for the latest valuation that's used to calculate the FY 2027 school funding formula, they are using value from our fiscal year 2023, 24, and 2025. So you can see that that's older. And I'm sorry, that's 21, 22, and 23. And then there are other things that are in there, like number of students in school and other school indicators. But the only thing we're focusing on is the role that the TIF valuation plays in all of these formulas. Revenue sharing uses the 1 year, which is currently the FY 2026, based on tax assessment of 4/1/24. And the county tax formula, again, uses fiscal year 2026. That one really is looking at the share of valuation that communities have. So one of the things I looked at, it's not in here, but the dollars that we don't shelter, if we didn't shelter funds, it means our county taxes go up and all the other municipalities go down. So it's just one of those things. It's because they're doing a shift share. So if we take, dollars out of the shift, that means, that burden is going somewhere else.
And just appreciate the state funding formula and revenue sharing, those are subsidies that come to us, so that's revenue to offset what would
Right.
have to be raised otherwise through property tax. Whereas county tax, the benefit is that we pay less than we would otherwise. So,
And it's also why sometimes it gets confusing too. It's not like the state's writing us a check. It's just saying we can calculate or actually what we're saying is we're calculating the state's funding formula and the municipal revenue sharing 2 ways. The way that the state is doing it, which is using state valuation, which doesn't have the TIF value in it. And then I go back and say, all right, what happens if I put that value back in as if we didn't have a TIF? So that's really the only thing we're doing. We're not affecting anything else in those funding formulas. Again, I like to call it time travel. You can think of yourself as Doctor Who trying to figure out where you are in time. State formulas use the state valuation of municipalities. State valuation has a 2-year time delay. State valuation of 2026 matches town data for 4/1/2024. The benefit calculated for the current year is based on this captured assessed value from 2 years prior, and we're calculating the benefit for the year in which we receive the benefit. I just want to make that clear because we struggled with what do you compare the benefit to? Do you take it back 2 years and compare it to when it was generated? Or do you say, nope, we need to calculate it when we're receiving the benefit? And so that's what we're doing. We don't want to go back 2 years to align because we didn't receive the benefit then. So that's what's going on.
So the benefit basically is in today's dollars versus the valuation is in.
Right.
past.
Right. So the value, what we're calculating affects what we receive in FY 2027. And so there are two questions on TIFs. One is what we just talked about, the impact of the sum of all TIF districts estimated in the current fiscal year. And then there's this other impact that is often seen, always seen in the TIF applications, and that is a projected impact of the shift benefit over the course of whatever the length of the TIF is. And they do an average benefit. So when they're doing the average benefit, they're using the same one every year. In reality, which is what we're doing, is that benefit is lower in the beginning years and then higher in the later years. And so that's why we wanted to know just what's happening this year. And so this is what was in your memo. And you can't see it as well here, but so what we've calculated by doing the three formulas, and the only thing we're doing is putting the valuation back in so that all of our funding formulas, what we receive back goes down and our tax goes up, our county tax goes up. So in fiscal year 2027, we're receiving, if you translate the county tax into a positive, anyway, $2.2 million. In fiscal year 2026, it was 1.5, and in fiscal year 25, it's 975,000. As you can see, it's going up, and that's really the result of TIF value going up in the different districts. And so I'm able to calculate the fiscal year 2026. We calculated the shift benefit as 22%. So every dollar that we're spending in capturing in a TIF district, we're receiving 22% of those dollars back in benefits. And that likely will go up in 2027, but I can't do those calculations until we have the final valuations. And what's important here is, again, let's look at fiscal year 2026. It was 22%. The TIF application that we had done through our attorneys really had that TIF benefit at 55%. And again, that's an average benefit. We're only concerned with this fiscal year.
So we can expect that it was 22 and 26, 22%, it's likely to be
Right.
24, 25, so something higher.
Yeah. And the biggest impact is the school funding formula, which uses the oldest data.
Karen, I wonder if we should take the next step. I'm interested in it, but it probably isn't compelling, but we could actually calculate what the tax rates would have been. See, and take one step further and actually calculate what it means to the average homeowner.
We could, yeah.
I suspect the numbers are fairly unimpressive there.
Yeah, 2 million.
Yeah, 2 million.
Yeah. So again, just to review.
Can I ask a question, Karen? So, what happens when the term of the TIF district expires?
That value comes right back on the rolls.
So where are we in terms of?
We're near 7 of the downtown TIF of
Yeah.
30.
Yeah,
Higas Parkway is winding down.
yeah.
We've got 3 years left, I think. But it's a much lesser value, if we will. But yeah, there'll be a shift.
That'll be a shift.
Right. And I'll tell you, it's a big question. Like the city of Bath is working through, the TIF district that they set up for BIW is going to be winding down within the next year or so, and all that value is going to come back
It's gonna be
on.
$1 billion value.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to look at that is to say, okay, we're taking the $1 billion. I don't know how long the TIF was, 20 years.
It's hundreds of millions. No
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, we're taking that now. If they didn't do the TIF district, they would have had to do it 20 years ago and take that value then and pay for it every year. So there's a price, but we're saving a lot of money. And I think if you calculated the savings for that life of the TIF district,
Right.
that would be an offset. So this is just summarizing, we're using the total captured assessed value of all districts. I'm not doing districts separately. We place the total CAV and the funding formulas. We're comparing the change in the funding with and without the captured assessed value. And then we calculate a percent return by comparing the results with the current fiscal year tax revenues from the tip. All right, so this is another way of looking at it. So this is fiscal year 2026, not 2027. I'm looking at 2026 because I have all the numbers. The captured assessed value was 605 million, tax rate $11.33. So there are the revenues. We paid $1.9 million out in CEA payments. The sheltering impact was 1.12 million. And I know some people are like, oh man, we didn't cover the whole cost of that tip. But remember, the CEA. So remember, we were buying things with that credit enhancement agreement. We bought affordable housing, so we invested in affordable housing. We bought infrastructure, so we were investing in infrastructure. So the net cost of all of those CEAs was 768,000. So we're only paying 41% of what we assigned or what we said we were going to invest in. So that shelter is offsetting the tip value. So it's 768,000 is there, or 769,000 is just taking the 1.9 million, minus the, as the sheltering benefit as a percentage of that. And the other way of looking at it is the 1.1 million that we got in the shelter is 60% of what we paid. But I'm turning that around and saying we agreed to pay, 1.9 million for various things, and we just got a 60% discount on that. Does that make sense?
So, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it does. So for the downs, we have a 40% CA in place. What you're saying is 60% of that 40% is covered by shelter benefit. So it's not coming out of taxpayer benefit. So,
Yeah,
so to speak.
right.
But the upshot of this is there's really no reason we should be tipping everything. Areas that we think have high potential for development. And that's why we proposed a TIF in the Dunstan area.
Yeah.
Because of that 80 acres that I think is ripe for development. There's really no reason not to, but for the fact that many people conflate and relate TIFs with CEAs, and that is a derivative of it. But in the first instance, there's, from a financial perspective, it is in our best interest to the tune of 25% to our benefit. Karen, you don't like this analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. And maybe tell me why I'm wrong. The way a regular tax dollar is worth 75 cents. A TIF dollar is worth $1.
Yeah. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Yes.
So what is the major argument against the TIF district? Because it did not pass.
Confusion.
Yeah, I think the case with Dunstan is people just simply saw the town trying to develop housing at Dunstan, and that was the full understanding of what the proposal was. Make it easier, throw money at developers. I think that it's so impossible to do this with each taxpayer and walk them through.
Right.
But
I mean, you could
no, the development is going to happen. It's just a
Right.
matter of whether we can.
With the Dunstan TIF, we have been talking about it, for years, needing and wanting to advance this. Unfortunately, we advanced it with the Marshview Affordable Housing Project because they were asking for CEA. That project fell away. They went away, but we continued with the TIF, and I think it just we never got away and separated from that.
One of the big contentions of the TIF was, in every TIF application to the state, because you have to apply to the state and have them approve it, you have to provide a forecast of our projection of how much development is going to happen, in the period of time for that TIF. And we did that. We did it based on a study that was done like 10 years ago that used the zoning. And people felt like that piece represented a an allowance, that we were allowing that to happen. What got confusing is, no, the zoning is allowing that to happen. The TIF forecast means zero in terms of regulatory impact.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, um, it's very difficult to project 30 years what's gonna happen, particularly when you don't have the development in hand, right?
Right.
So you're left to looking at land use and doing some calculations. The analysis that we used, I still think was the best one we had. But to do that, they looked at land use and they said that, over time, 240 apartments and this and that. And so people fixated on this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It was this kind of, it was a academic exercise as to what could happen.
Right. And that is,
People thought it was verbatim that it was gonna happen.
yeah, I will say that is I think that's one of the things that could be made clear in the TIF statutes about, and the application process of making it clear what these things actually represent and are they needed?
Right.
So,
Just another side that you might recall with the whole discussion around the downs tip, that at 40%, the projection that Karen's talking about, we did it jointly with them. You might recall that they stand to get about $80 million if they perform. That's based on this 30,
yeah,
25 year,
30-year.
30-year, yeah.
build out, which estimates value, it estimates future tax rates over each of those years. So that's where that 80 million came from, was based on this far out projection. And frankly, they do seem to be generally on track. We'll
Right.
see. There's a lot of time left.
But this is one of the few projects that are large like this that actually has a schedule of development. A lot of times, the municipality is left trying to predict, okay, what does this look like? It might be an individual project. In this case, we're looking at 550 acres. And so there's a lot of speculation in this, and we need to do a better job of saying what's actual versus this is a projection. And the difference
But Karen,
between
your truth tested that. You've actually looked at
Yeah.
what they've done in the first 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's remarkably close to what they said they were gonna do.
it is. And the downtown TIF is one of and the Downs is one of the few things that we've done some fiscal analysis on. So we've looked at it 6 ways to Sunday, so to speak. And and it changes every year because we're gotten more information every year. And that's the one thing I'm going to say, whatever you see today won't be true next year. Because all the dollars change, the amount of funding that the state decides to give to municipalities through the various funding formulas changes. Lots of things change. And then I will say this one last piece, again, this is in your memo. This last piece was an exercise that someone had asked us to do, to say, well, what happens if you have $1 million in captured assessed value? What does that do we look just at the school funding formula. And what we did is I went back and said, all right, I'm going to add, remember the school funding formula uses 3 years. So I said, what happens if I add $1 million of captured assessed value to the latest year? And then I did a second one, which is what happens if I add $1 million in each of the 3 years. And so if we just did $1 million in 2027, that impact was about $1,900. If we did it in all 3 years, it wound up being $5,600. And just to give you a sense of scale of value, like the new bank was about $3 million in valuation. Sorry, I shouldn't look at you. You're not there anymore.
Credit union.
The credit union, yes. That was, a new project that came online. So again, that's just a way of thinking about it. Again, this is only school funding formula. So $1 million in this fiscal year equates to $2,000 in shelter benefit. Oh, and that's it. Thank goodness. So anyway, that's what's going on with the shelter benefit. Again, this is just one aspect of the tip, but it's the one that gets the most questions and is the most confusing. And Tom and I keep trying to think of different ways to say it that don't get people confused, because what we don't want them to think is somewhere there's a check being written for these dollars. But it is a real savings to the community. And it's intended to be a savings to the community. And the state designed it that way so that you had a tool to work with. And the other thing that I does get into people's heads is every TIF is a credit enhancement agreement. Every TIF does not have a credit enhancement agreement. You can
Do you
have,
have examples of that?
well, that was what we were looking at for the Dunstan TIF. There was the affordable housing TIF, but that got pulled, the affordable housing project, but that got pulled out. So then the Dunstan TIF was no credit enhancement agreement at all. It was just about saying, we know that, or we anticipate that there's going to be growth in that area. Let's capture it and save some shelter benefit.
The critics would say, and you can't have a CEA without TIP, so the critics would say that you're seeding, you're enabling by putting the TIF in place, you're setting yourselves up for a CEA request, and they don't have confidence that we can say no or
Right.
negotiate it favorably.
I don't even think most people, I mean, I don't think most people even understand that. So I think most people just think they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
And I'll, you know, I've dealt with kids for a long time. To, you know, people, developers use it as part of their, you know, financing sources for projects. The amount of, you know, ignorance on it. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, just the amount of not knowing is, you know, and I'm always, I mean, a lot of times the newspaper gets it wrong. I mean, you know, I can't tell you how many times you read an article and they the newspaper treats the tip the same way as CEA, and you know, you kind of be hoping that they wouldn't, you know,
Right.
that they do the homework, you know. It's really about education and explaining the
We
differences.
like to have conversations like this without the pressure of a project.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to have more of these, frankly.
right. And we totally get why people reacted to the Dunstan tip the way they did. Totally understand. You know, we just need to, we want the council to understand it's a tool for them to use. And here's what that tool does.
Just a little inside baseball, majority of council fully stood at the
Right.
time that Dunstan was the right financial thing. It was on the eve of the second school referendum, and there was a political calculation that, you know, let's not do anything to kind of derail or pull our focus away or lose votes, if you will. So
Well,
it
in
was a
that
conscious decision not to do it.
in that instance, I don't think even if people understood that it was just a TIF and not a CEA, I think it still would.
They still would,
against it. I
yeah.
mean, there were
I agree.
there were headwinds at that.
Yeah.
You know, there was a
Well,
bigger.
Yeah, and I'm not proud of it. What I've learned over 33 years is that I need to focus on educating 7 people.
Right.
Yeah.
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 That's not to say I
No.
don't
One hundred
think it's
percent.
important to educate the public, but you know, and the council changes, so that's an ongoing commitment, and that's hard enough just to get 7 people to understand this themselves, much less the masses.
Right. And it's also why we devoted the resources, you know, brain power to try to figure out what this really means to us, because it's just too amorphous to say, hey, you're going to get 50% back over, you know, 30 years, when we know it's going to change every year. So let's just be upfront. This is what we're getting.
And you should know, to my knowledge, Karen is the only one that is doing this statewide, in the state. I'm not aware of any- this level of analysis.
Right.
She was recently invited up to DAF to, in part, advise them, but also this was part of the conversation, and I think sharing this with the folks at DCD.
Yes.
Who,
Toxins got low in the news too.
Yeah.
so.
Right. Just want to be
proud
clear.
of her analytical skills.
Yeah. No, I was not invited up to Bath, but I was, we did a Zoom meeting trying to go through this, trying to figure out the calculations for, what would happen, with the BIW TIF. And, again, I invite anybody to take a look at this and figure out a better way. It's a complicated process, but we're getting better at it. But, we don't know any other way of, except being totally transparent about the dollars, to show what's happening. And again, there's so much flavor in the TIF in terms of what you can and can't do and what it means to people. I would say, if you ask me as an economic development staff person, what would be my goal? And my goal is to make sure that the council knows what the tool does and how to use it when they want to. And that's the important piece. It's not my role to advocate that they use it. It is my role to say, this is what it does for you. You pick when you want to use this.
How does TIF districts first get determined? So is that from the town looks at a property and says, this would make for a good TIF, and then application is made, but the council has to approve
Yeah,
that.
it's all,
Yeah.
it's totally unilateral, the town creates the TIF, the
Okay.
developer can't, it's not applied to,
Okay,
Right.
we're the only ones that can.
and I think that's another good distinction, is that this is town initiated, not developer initiated. First.
Very often they are hand in glove.
Right, because someone's
Request
coming
comes
to you.
in, and
Again, to your point, what you just said,
But they're not the ones.
typically there's a specific project
Right.
kind of seen to be associated
Right.
with it.
That's right.
Right.
That's why it's this always, here we go again,
Right.
But I also feel like there are parameters around how you define a TIF, right? So the district, so it tends to be harder to develop area. Was one understanding I had of.
They can be, a community
could-
could use it to spark development in
Yes.
an area.
Companies will
Yeah.
create a TIF in a
Yeah.
blighted area or hard to develop, or, there's some massive infrastructure cost
Right.
that is an impediment. And actually advertise, we're open and willing to talk CEAs, because they realize that they need to subsidize to achieve the results.
Right.
Just the downtown TIF, just so you appreciate, though the request came from the down, those 500 acres. In the end, the downtown TIF actually consumes about 1,000 acres.
Yeah.
We chose to capture kind of
All of
line
Oak Hill.
between the
Areas,
downs
yeah.
and Oak Hill and all of Oak Hill too.
is there a size limit?
There is.
There is, okay.
For the downtown TIF, there isn't. Sorry, the downtown TIF, the beauty of that one is it doesn't count towards the municipalities' TIF totals. So there is an acreage limit, but you don't count the downtown TIF.
5% until the.
Yeah.
That actually a TIF, but for downtown
Yeah.
TIFs.
So how many do we have from current?
Well,
I think we have 3, because I think we're closing down,
what's the third?
aren't we closing, economic development ones? Are we closing? Yeah, did we close out,
Enterprise,
no, we closed that out, the
I guess.
Bob Goodrow's project. It was a very small TIF.
That's down. I
Okay,
think we're down to 2.
2,
So we have
yeah,
Titus and the
Downtown.
downtown district.
That's it.
yeah,
And multiple CEAs within the downtown. So Downs is the biggest one, and then we'll get 2 affordable housing CEAs within that district too.
and the other,
Two housing.
yeah,
Because that's a point for any developer trying to do housing. Especially on the mainstay housing, right? To have that, to be able to check the box.
It's almost
Right.
essential. They can't get the LIHTC funding without it.
Yeah.
right. And the other thing I do want to say about the creation of TIFs, you have to spot the timing correctly. In other words, it's easier when you have a project that's coming in and you know what their project is doing. For the Dunstan TIF, we had the Marsh view, but we were really gaming when the development would happen, because you don't
Any earlier than
ex-
expect value to start being created.
Right.
exactly, otherwise you miss.
Right,
Yeah, you don't want a tip that's sitting there not generating value.
that's right.
Yeah.
What are the major negatives of the CEA?
Some people think of it, they cannot divorce it from feeling like that's a subsidy of an individual business. And I get that. You know, I will say for the Downs TIF, it was an investment in infrastructure. And I think we forecasted out for the life of the TIF, investing about $80 million in that project. And their expenditure for infrastructure is going to be about 225 million. Don't quote me on those. I think I'm trying to remember from the,
That's close. The real proposition here is kind of the but for argument.
Yes.
So take it as, we'll simplify the example. So a single parcel, single user wants to come in and build a factory and they need sewer, and it's a mile away. And they say, we'll come and we'll build $100 million facility, but we can't bear the expense of this sewer line. For example. So, but for this unique thing, and so the CEA makes sense, I would argue, that we'll share in that expense or cover that expense. In exchange, you'll come. And I think there's some breakdown in that but for. People say, well, they're gonna come anyway. You didn't need to give them any assistance. And in some cases that may be true. But in most projects of any size and significance, I think it's really true. It's very competitive out there.
So Jim, just a real example. I won't use specifics, but somewhere in the mid-coast right now, there's a project that it's not affordable housing. It's a market rate housing development. But the town that it is so desperate for more affordable housing that the town went to the developer and said, we will give you a 30-year TIF for 60% of your, property taxes or something.
Come on, you're
Yeah, sorry. Well, a CEA within the TIF.
Yeah, that's right.
But a third of your units need to be somewhat income restricted. Developer, the TIF made that work in order, the TIF, the CEA made the numbers still work, even though a third of the units have to be, more affordable. And so it's like a win-win. But Tom's point, but for that, the numbers wouldn't work.
So the public impression is that you're giving a deal to the developer.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. And it's super important to be clear about what you're investing in. And I think that is, it's imperative to be clear why you're doing this investment.
The genius of the Downs project is given its just sheer scale, though they certainly have built and own and will continue to own and operate some of the buildings. The vast majority are owned by someone else, so they subdivide a lot, someone builds their thing, and then that other party pays their taxes, yet the benefit of that tax doesn't go to that property owner, it goes to the Downs. And it makes sense, they invested 250 million in the end, in stuff, in roads and sewer and
That are public.
in power,
Yeah.
all to enable that to happen. So,
Yeah, and the other thing about CEAs is it's like you test it, like you're giving money after it comes in.
Correct.
It's not
Right,
like you're
right.
not risking anything. The parameters were set.
you don't get paid unless you produce.
Yeah,
Right,
and if the down sat there and didn't do anything or didn't meet any of the thresholds or the
Right,
mixes or
right, right,
they wouldn't get the money.
Right.
So it's it's
And that is the difference, because I keep thinking we need to do a listing of all the tips and how they were done. The Higas Parkway was one that it was a 30-year tip as well. And the town made the investment in the infrastructure and was using the tip to pay us back. With the Downs, we said, yeah, you do it. So,
Heights Park, it was not a good experience for us.
No.
Spent the money and it sat for
Mhm.
15 years
Mhm.
before much of anything other than Cabela's happened.
but I will say by the end of the fiscal year, I mean, by the end of the TIF, it was paying the, am I wrong to say it paid the infrastructure back?
And
So,
Yep.
yeah, I think sometimes we still think of Higas Parkway as problematic, but it didn't happen as fast as we wanted, but it did do what it needed to do, which is pay for that infrastructure. And some of that infrastructure is what the Downs is using to bring the utilities to their site too.
Right.
So it did do its job in the end. It was just a little uncomfortable for a good decade.
Yeah.
But that experience really gave us a very strong position. We didn't waver on with the Downs, that we're not gonna invest a dime.
Yeah.
It's all gonna be your investment and you produce value, you'll get paid.
Yeah.
So they assumed 100% of this.
Right. So Tom and I are at Finance Committee tonight, or this afternoon, 5 o'clock, sort of doing a similar presentation. So we get some of the kinks out, working through you guys and helping which comments, hit home for you. I think the tips are gonna have to be a continual discussion on our part to not promote tips per se, but to, continue to boost the understanding in the community and in elected officials about what the possibilities are and what the roles are for TIFs. And there are several. And this shift benefit is just one. It's one aspect of the TIF. It's a good one, because you can look at it as in fiscal year 2026, whatever got spent on SEDCO, they got 22% of that back. So we our costs are cut by 22%. And I think that's how you can also look at the investment there. But that's why, having this more broader discussion of TIFs is why we put that as the roundtable discussion. So we're sort of combining it all in one piece. So we're not as far back on the agenda as we should.
No,
we
yeah, I
think.
mean, I want to make sure that you're getting value out of the
Yeah.
conversation. So what are you hoping to gain from us after this experience? Is it just practice for tonight or there?
Well, no, I think it's more, I think it's, does this make sense to you, the way we're explaining it? Does it perform the function that I think the state intended it to do, which was to provide an economic development tool for communities?
Just realized I was supposed to be at a Zoom meeting at 9.
Oopsie. See you later. You got through the big one.
Hosting.
What's going on right here?
Hey, we can double Zoom.
Thank you all.
Bye, Tom.
Yeah.
So I wonder in your presentation, I think to say that we currently have 2 TIF districts. I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
whether people understand that or not, but I think it's just clarity on what these numbers are based on 2 areas, right?
More, the 2 economic development tips and then
And then
the housing.
affordable housing.
So they're all
maybe
combined in
include
this.
that too, but
Yeah.
I just think that it's helpful to have that delineation
Right.
of what are we actually talking about. So
The one, I will say, the one thing that gets confusing is because it goes back so many years, part of the, I think there's another tip that's involved in the early parts, but see, this is where.
you can add
the
that and just say
detail-
this has expired, but the
Right.
valuation, it's still included in the valuation because of look back.
Right.
Right.
I think it genuinely doesn't hurt. Like I meant it when I said before, I need to start over every time.
Yeah.
20 years I've been talking about
Yeah.
TIF. To start any conversation, let's take a minute to very clearly define what a TIF is and what a credit enhancement agreement is. And how they're different and what their purpose is. And, speaking to a 5th grader, even though it's the finance company, they all know. I think you gotta start every conversation with, let's
That's
remind
great.
ourselves what
Yeah.
this is.
And, again, I go back to like, they don't produce, they don't get anything. It's like, it's the risks, how are the risks, it's like, how are the risks mitigated,
So Karen. You got, what, 25 years left on the Downs. TIF. And 3 years left on Higas Park. What impact, negative or positive, would there be not to have another TIF in waiting,
Mhm.
like
Oh,
Dunstan?
sure.
Mhm.
Like, is it in our best interest? I think it is.
Mhm.
I would think it is. To be able to roll, as one goes out, have another one in waiting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, am I right on, I mean,
It would
Just the whole-
It
soften
depends, yeah.
towards the end of the Downs tip. Because they've created so much value. I don't think we'll find another tip that
Right.
would do the same
Right.
thing, but anything that eases that coming onto the tax rolls, sure,
and,
it's a good point.
Well,
and
and losing
the, in the,
Higas
in
in
the,
3 years.
the Higas TIF. Was that the town's investment in the utilities?
Mhm.
Yes, and there was investment in the Cabela's project,
In the Cabela's project? Yeah.
but that has ended.
Really going back down,
Right, I think it was 800,000.
yeah.
So Karen, to the back point, their tip's gonna expire and they're gonna be stuck. Essentially at this point, so and they have nothing in the wings. I can't think of that as having a lot of development coming along. So to me, that's almost an example of how not to do things, like how not to have a tip or something. And I guess it comes down to the fundamental policy of what is your town's vision? Because if you're a town that's looking towards growth and constant expanding, then it makes total sense to always have a tip lined up. If your town vision and your comprehensive plan doesn't align with that, then they expire over time.
Right.
I look at Scarborough as this town's always going to keep expanding based on our location, based on the infrastructure, based on 295 and 95 waterways. Like this town is always going to keep growing whether you like it or not. So I think
Mhm.
it's almost short-sighted to not have a TIF
Mhm.
lined up constantly,
Mhm.
because to what Tom's point was with users, to Jason, like there's tremendous value in having these TIFs.
Mhm.
And even with the CEAs, you know what? Developers need to make money. People deserve the right to make money,
Mhm.
so long as everyone else receives a greater benefit from them making that money.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's the ultimate goal.
I mean, I think you hit it. I think the key point and the thing that I always say, like, there's a taking our medicine thing and delivering these things, which is like, these things are gonna happen, development's going to happen. The conversation about TIFs is always a matter of how does the town very smartly do with the income we can make from it. How do we benefit from it most for Scarborough's taxpayers and the things they want? That's what a TIF conversation is. A TIF conversation is not making sure that somebody can build another 30% more apartments. It's how do we direct that money to its best possible use? CEA is a little bit more complicated, but I think to John's point, a CEA only pays when they've delivered the things we said we wanted from them. That was the whole point of the down CEA, was that we said, we cannot give them one and we can have no say in what they build down there. They can build to what it's zoned for. But if we want to be able to say, here's what we want in our town, that's what CEAs buy for us.
Exactly, control.
I was gonna say that.
And I think you're right on and what your point is, but in the interim. Using Dunstan as an example. Do you look at how you can reduce those traffic problems? Do you, in advance of proposing a TIF for the Dunstan area, do you focus on traffic? How do you get it out onto 95 and off of Route 1? And what strategies can you use, especially while the city directly south of you is developing on Route 1? So how do you work around that to make it more manageable? And do you devote time to that?
And I'm gonna say the planner in me is definitely you use the tips to support your comprehensive plan.
That's, yeah,
And that's-
that's the
Yeah.
point, exactly.
Yeah,
And keep control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and keep it simple. Is there a way that a TIF can support what we want to do in the comp plan?
Yeah, the conversation is not about what the TIF is going to build. The conversation is about how the thing being built will allow the towns to support the comprehensive.
Mhm.
plan.
Right.
That's what the TIF is for.
Mhm.
It's,
Complicated.
it's a matter of separating those two things, which is it's taking advantage of development,
Right.
not allow it or.
Or directing development, I
Right.
think in many ways.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
The downs could have been exclusively single family
Right.
housing.
Oh, yeah.
It could have been one mansion with 6,000
Right.
acres. It could have been anything. Instead, we are receiving the benefits
Yeah.
as a greater whole. And sure, the developers are gonna make a few bucks. Great. The town
The
benefit
benefit,
far outweighs
Yeah.
that CEA,
yeah,
in my
I mean,
opinion.
one of the bucks they're making, it's just the town contributing to pay for costs that they've
And-
taken on their own, so they'll do it, you know.
And 95% of the people who live in town don't realize that what's going on Payne Road right now and outside of Hannaford on Payne Road where they're doing the intersection, that's all related to the
Right.
downs.
Mhm.
But the average Joe doesn't,
right,
unless it's fed to them. They
Yeah.
don't, they just don't know it because
Right. And sometimes I think we're a little conservative because we want to be super precise about how we say things
yeah,
with all these because there are a lot of caveats in this. And so I think sometimes we're extra conservative because again, our job is to provide them a tool and to make sure they understand what this tool is. And sometimes they're going to use it, and sometimes they're going to say, nope, not the right time. We don't want this right now. And that is perfectly fine. We just need to make sure that here's what it can do.
so to Tom's point, you have 7 people on the council that really are the ones that are gonna benefit from the education, right? So, is there an element of argument that they're using that you're not addressing? Like, I just want to make sure that in your presentation, you're really addressing their concerns, and what they're maybe either missing in knowledge on,
Right.
or they're verbally saying, this is why I can't support this or whatever, but I think, again, trying to make the presentation to the general public isn't the
Right.
goal.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that what you're presenting is really addressing. I mean, we can talk about what we think it needs to
Right.
be, but you're the one who hears it. Tom's the
Right.
one that hears it.
And that's why we're trying to focus on this one narrow piece that I think people have a little bit of skepticism about.
Yeah,
And so that's why doing,
Shelter.
yes.
got
Yeah.
it, got
And
it.
that's why when we're
Okay.
talking to the finance committee tonight, we're only talking about sheltering.
Okay,
Although my memo does go through, what happens in a tip, but the impact is what's the shelter benefit? Help us give us some form to what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back again after commitment in August with when we get the final numbers to say, again, because I can't calculate
right,
how much of the existing CEAs we're covering until commitment in August. And commitment is just when they certify the actual value. What's in the budget right now is an estimate, but it's not an estimate of the individual tips and other things. So we need that from the tax assessor who will do that in August. Oh, she's doing it right now. So,
Okay.
all right, that's our.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of material, it's it's a phenomenal memo, and I think it'll be really useful. And I think you're always going to benefit by leading off with, let's just make sure we all agree on the definitions.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Great. Let's move on to approvals. Yes. So, main meeting summary. Before we have a vote, anybody look at the meeting minutes and have any notes or changes? Seeing none.
so,
Andrea moves. I have a second to approve the meeting minutes. Thank you, Helen. All in favor? Unanimous? Finance report, Karen, you want to take a minute with it before?
Sure, it looks pretty much the same as it did last time, just a little more closer to the 100% since we're heading into the end of the fiscal year. Again, the categories that were, over are the professional expenses, which is the audit, which we knew that was happening. And so with the new budget, that full amount of auditors is now included, so we won't be dipping into the fund balance for next year. Thank goodness.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Karen on the budget statement? Motion?
Motion.
Second, Kevin, or second?
Yeah.
Andrea, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, project profile. Where would you go?
Sure. So as we talked about for the annual report, we want to be able to give people a little bit of a scorecard, if you will, for lack of a better term. In the past 2 years, since we've been doing this form of the annual report, we've listed several indicators and we've put some descriptions by it to let people know what's happening. In the next report, what we're going to do is take this information and do an up or a down with the update, so you can see the tracking, what's happening from year to year. But I think the question for all of you is there something that we're missing from this list of things, or if there's something that you think is unimportant? We can take it out. But right now, this is what we've been tracking, and we're calling this, if you will, the key indicators to track. The only thing that I would add, which we didn't do last year, was the building permits. We did housing units, but I think we can add building permits too. One of the things that is important, I think, for people to see is, building permits are not on a permanent increasing scale. Like this past year for 2025, we actually only issued 106 residential permits, which is down from 284 or something like that. So I want to put building permits back in. And you don't have to make any decisions now. If somebody thinks of an indicator that they think is particularly important, just email me and we'll get that put in.
Popping to anybody right now?
Only thing, anything, school related, education, students, enrollment.
Yes, I did not put that in. And that is the self-employed work from home is critical as it was a few years ago. I don't know, but I think the last
That's in.
data, I think it's almost 20% now. It's still increasing. It's not going down.
Interesting.
Yeah, if anybody can think of anything else that might be useful, just shoot Karen an email. On that note, we don't meet again until September, which is a month out from the meeting. So we have to choose winners.
Yes.
We also, at our last meeting, talked about sort of working backwards with a plan with the survey.
Yes.
So Karen, I think you were going to work up a schedule of questions that will lead us into the dinner.
Yes.
With a good prompt. Can you talk a little bit about where you are on that?
Sure. I think we're closing down. We have a couple more surveys that we know are coming in, but we're probably closing them down. And I think the next category of information really is going to focus on, what are the issues with labor force? Is there something more that we can do and come up with some, indicators or questions for? I think we're going to use the group as what we talked about, and we will have an additional survey on the tables format. We might have everybody use their phone like we talked about, doing a QR code and just have them rate some of our options that we have to address certain things that people have brought up. And I should have that I will have that for you in September. I'll probably give you a couple of advanced concepts before that so that we can have it final in September. And then we'll go to the meeting with 150 people. It's a great opportunity to get some answers. And then after those answers, we'll also put it out to the full group as well. So that's where we are.
So the schedule is you'll do a second round of questioning in the next several weeks. Is that correct? Or is
Well, no, the second round, we're gonna launch at the October meeting.
Okay.
And have them evaluate, hey, if people are concerned about labor force recruitment, how about these options?
Mhm.
Or we say,
Based on the results of
Right.
that you're closing out on the.
So what we
Yeah.
had talked about at the last meeting, and maybe it's something that we just need to make sure we have ready for dinner,
Mhm.
is I want us to be able to present to the room.
yes,
Here's the regular rate that we're going to send these survey questions.
Yes.
We have the next one planned for late November and then January or whatever, and I want to see that scheduled out. So
Yes.
it feels like it's the sort of thing we do when we remember, and I know that's not the case, but if you're on the receiving end, that might be what it feels like.
yeah,
So I want us to be able to say, we have it in a calendar that we're gonna dig deeper over the course of the next however many months, so people are prepared.
When's the annual meeting?
it's October.
Marta sent an invitation.
Yeah.
Is it the
and-
sixth?
No, it's the
Yes,
last,
it's the
I think it's the
end of
last
October.
Tuesday.
Oh, it's the
Last-
end.
Yeah.
Because it's the last day they're open kind of thing.
Yes, so we
So
get
Tuesday, the
all the
22nd.
parking,
Yeah, we get all the parking.
right? So
Tuesday,
there'll be some
October
things that we're gonna do
Yeah.
over the
22nd.
summer to get us ready for that. And so finalize things in September, but
And the other thing I was just thinking is, maybe a few paper copies of the survey, just
Sure.
in case someone is having either trouble connecting or and doesn't want to, but can, fighting
yeah,
them.
they don't get their cakes unless they put that's in the survey. There's, there's a job for them.
People, there's only 6 submissions and there's 8.
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly right.
I think we should have a number we need to hit when we release the case.
Yeah.
There you go. That's perfect. Yes, yes, you're all holding up everybody's cake order, so yes, and then I do want to ask the board. I think I'd like to do a few more roles for the board members at the October meeting. I think Magda and I get sort of overwhelmed on like greeting people and things like that. So I think if it makes sense to you, I'd like to assign everybody, at the very least, assign you an award winner to usher in, find them a table, get them seated, welcome them. We try to do it, and sometimes people sneak in and we're like, oh my God, they're here, and we didn't greet them. So I think we want to get the board a little more active in, greeting and escorting and welcoming a specific set of people. I mean, you should welcome everybody, but
Yeah.
your job is, make sure these folks are set. And Helen,
Yes.
if it's possible,
Yeah.
could you continue to be part of the award package? And because I know you know a lot of small businesses. So I guess if it's okay with Travis, I would invite you to
For as long
submit.
as she's willing to stay.
Yeah, and if you can plan on coming to the meeting, I swear we won't embarrass you. To do anything.
No embarrassment. and
No embarrassment.
Yes.
Yes.
I love the cake.
People will do lots of things for cake.
It's very true.
Yeah. Okay, and
We'll ahead of schedule. Well, Helen, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We're excited for you, your retirement. We hope to make the most of your spare time and journeys.
Or is it?
Yeah, no, I'm done. I'm done as of June 1st. Yeah.
Oh,
I keep telling the same story, but my dad passed away at the end of March.
mm.
And his last piece of advice to me, because my husband retired last year, was, and he was asking Michael how much he enjoyed retirement. He looked at me and he said, when are you gonna retire, Helen? And I said, I don't know. And he said, retire as soon as you can, enjoy your life.
Nice.
Mm.
So I took it to heart, and the financial guy tells us we can, so I did.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah,
congratulations.
That's awesome.
thank you.
Very, very exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is.
Visit.
It's weird, though. It is very weird.
Mm.
It grows on you.
Yeah, you can tell that. My husband had no trouble adjusting whatsoever. I'm kind of pacing around the house.
Pretty sure you could be as relaxed as Kevin.
Not bad.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved?
thank you. Great, yeah, let's get those nominations into Karen, thanks, everybody.
And one piece, I think Mugga said you can only submit two, you can, at this point, you can submit as many names as you want. Don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Submit, if you've got 10 businesses you want to put on the list, do it. We'll narrow it down once we get a slate of businesses, but feel free to.
And she
What-
sent
what's
us
on-
that
what's
list,
on?
right?
On, you mean on the,
Award.
On nominating,
Awards, yes.
yeah, so submit as many as you want, and we'll just, it's okay to have 10 businesses that you guys wanna evaluate. The one thing that's different this year is, it is nice if you can help us out by saying, what is it about this business
Mhm.
that is special that you
Mhm.
want to,
Mhm.
why you want them to be considered?
Adjourn, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Karen, great job on all
Yeah,
the tip. That's.
yeah.
That's, no, explain. I may need you to come